you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Snap Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College, Dabigo Road. GMS Snap Bingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.
Hello and welcome to Second Take with Isma Dakaba Chigongo, where we bring you, I don't want to say the latest in sport, but where we bring you a different analysis or a second take of what is happening in the sporting world. My name is Mebo Kevirunji. Glad you could join us. If you haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button so you will be alerted to whenever we drop an episode. Isma, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good. Glad to be here.
Have you had a bit of a free week? I know Brandon was saying you're unemployed. I don't want to call you unemployed, but I think you have a bit of free
You already
time.
did.
You have a bit of free time.
I honestly wish Nation Media Group was open. Then I would be much busier than I've been. Yeah, there's a lot of lull time, but I'm also a home person, so it's not like I'm using the free time to go and visit Mabel or Jeremiah or anyone. Just spend that time at home. Actually, this morning I was watching one of America's biggest sportscasters, one of the highest paid, Stephen A. Smith, and he was on CNN on Laura Cortez Live, and he was discussing how much Trump has enriched himself.
Oh my goodness!
During
1.4 billion?
Yeah, in crypto,
and
how much how his resorts have made a lot more money because of his tenure in the White House, and it was an amazing discussion. For someone who promised to cut the cost of living has gone up. Reminds me about all the promises made by politicians during the campaign period. There's that famous Norbert Mao video, yeah, when he was addressing, I think, an NGO sitting, where I said when during campaigns, when politicians are promising you think you're in heaven, then after the election, then you know it's hell. Welcome to hell, So every time I see that, it tickles my mind quite a bit. But glad I'm very, very fine. Also this weekend, first of all, it's coming to the 4th of July.
Yeah, 250 years.
250 years of American independence. But as part of that American independence, there is a big wedding at the Madison Square Garden.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce plays or Kels, whatever. Yeah. Who plays in the NFL, in the National Football League for the Kansas City Chiefs. So America is on tenterhooks. This is arguably the most famous pop star on social media. Taylor Swift, when she goes into a place, there's a shutdown. I was seeing
she went to Austria. Was it Austria or Germany? And there was inflation. Now this is a European country, and this was about a year or so ago.
You can imagine. So I was seeing the rules, the rehearsal, no one is invited. The wedding is at MSG, the home of the NBA champions, the New York Knicks. No cameras allowed. Everyone who's been invited has been invited digitally. So when you walk in, they'll scan and know you're actually on the guest list. But no guest is allowed to walk in with a camera. To her wedding, she's hired a video and photography company that is going to release her wedding photos, and there's a lot of money to be made in that, because companies are going to pay an arm and a leg to be the first ones to show Taylor Swift's wedding to Travis Kelce. So it's been an amazing story. When I watched it, the reporter was as excited as I was to see it. Yeah. So it's on Saturday. The wedding is going to last several days, from Thursday to Friday. Then the guests, over 1,000 guests actually attending the wedding on Saturday, then goes into Sunday. It's a 4-day wedding. Yeah.
And they're going to be accommodated nearby?
Yeah, in the hotels around Madison Square Garden, especially for the Saturday event.
And how is it that we won't see them? Because I think I did hear them say, are they going to put like barricades or something so that we won't see the guests walk in?
Yeah, it's going to be a lockdown.
Because the roads are closed and some roads.
I also say story. They didn't cite the TV company, but they cited TV companies that wanted to pay millions of dollars to broadcast the wedding. Yeah. And Taylor Swift said no. Yeah, so it's a sporting story, guys. There's an NFL player involved.
Getting married.
Yeah, getting married to the biggest pop star in Taylor Swift. It's quite the story.
It's quite the story.
Yeah.
I'm tempted for us to start with LeBron James.
Yeah.
Maybe we should. We should start with LeBron James, who is bypassing retirement and entering an unprecedented 24th season.
Yes, he is. The greatest scorer in the history of the game. He passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar during the previous NBA season. But more importantly, why this story is important is that LeBron James has informed the LA Lakers, my team, that he's not returning next season, and he's going to take his talents elsewhere, to borrow from that speech that he gave all those many years ago when he left the Cleveland Cavaliers and went to the Miami Heat. Reports indicate that he could actually sign for either the Golden State Warriors or the Cleveland Cavaliers over the next few days. Maybe even by the time you get to watch the show, he has made that decision. Yeah, but he's walking away after 8 seasons at the Lakers, where he won us a championship during lockdown in 2020. Those finals that were played at Disney World. A player who, for me, has changed the dynamic of the NBA, has given players a lot more power. Yeah. Players were not this powerful when Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Bill Russell played the game. But now they have so much power to decide on what rosters they are going to be part of, which wasn't the case maybe 30 years ago. That's one thing. Of course, those who get into an argument about him being the greatest player. I do not subscribe to him being the greatest, but neither do I get involved in that. I've learned over time that most of that is a lot of personal BS to decide who the greatest player is. But it's a busy...
But while you have a greatest cricketer, Mr.
Sachin Tendulkar.
Yes.
And I've never needed anyone to join my fan club, even if I stayed alone. Yeah, I've never needed anyone to join in. So that's how I treat some of his arguments. But it's a busy NBA, what we call transfers in Europe. Yeah. They call it trade. It's a trade season. And LeBron, while he's the biggest star moving, and we haven't yet confirmed what team is going to be, because the difference with the NBA and transfers in Europe is that there isn't money actually exchanging hands. It's contracts being moved from one team to the other. It's giving away your liabilities or assets to another team and that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's not like someone is paying 70 million. It's a totally different financial model in the most capitalist country in the world that tries to create equality in sport, even through the drafts where the best player goes to probably the worst team during the draft when the players are entering the NBA. But there's also some other big transfer news. The other involves Kawhi Leonard. He's leaving the LA Clippers and moving back to Toronto. When he played in Toronto for one season, that was 2018-2019, he won them their only NBA championship. So he's going back to the Raptors. Good move for him. He's now 35. The numbers have not declined on both ends of the floor. Arguably one of the best two-way players in the league. Good on offense and good on defense. The other one that has been rambling over the past few days has been Jaylen Brown. So we got a confirmation that he's leaving the Boston Celtics and he's going to the Philadelphia 76ers. And in return, the Sixers are sending Paul George and some draft picks to Boston. Jaylen Brown, remember, he was the MVP when the Celtics won the championship. He hasn't had, I think, a very good relationship over the first 1 year with the Celtics, including that interview that he gave in the aftermath of the Celtics being knocked out in the first round, where he said this was his best season. Yeah? And for a franchise as storied as the Celtics, they found that very offensive. They've won 17 championships and they knocked out in the first round, and one of their best players thinks that was their best year on the floor. They didn't take that easy. So he's been on the market. They tried to trade him to the Milwaukee Bucks, who sent Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat, and they couldn't get that deal through, but eventually they found a one. I think the team he's joined are going to be huge beneficiaries, because now he joins Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid on that 76ers roster. They go from just being a pretender for me to a contender. But if you want to understand how the NBA transfers work, you need to dedicate some nights, because they are totally different from any other transfers. They'll make your head spin, yeah, just trying to understand a trade and a player, and then this for draft picks and the value of these contracts and how much is guaranteed to a player. It's quite a jungle. Yeah.
So that's why there's Second Take with IDK.
Yeah. I don't know if I did a show about how NBA transfers do, whether you'll watch it, but also how long I will need.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's quite detail in there. From rookie contracts to guaranteed to supermax contracts, why Victor Wembanyama earns so little, while yet is one of the best players in the league relative to some of the highest paid players like Steph Curry. It's a totally different jungle that you need to understand in a totally different way. You have to shut down all you understand about the other football side and try to understand this on its own right.
And we have some fans in North America. Thank you for watching. Unfortunately, because of Ebola, some of us are not there. Hello to Clive Chaze, the man on a mission who made it. And Isma, I think I'll break all the interviewing protocol. Yeah. Because I'm going to ask you like 5 questions at a go. Because how, talking about the round of 32 World Cup in Canada, Mexico, and America, how are we here, Isma? You know, Isma, my first question is, what happened to the Lions of Teranga, to the Leopards? We fall, not just falling, but the manner in which we fail. That's number one. Number two, are we just poor? Really? And I'm bringing this up because, and of course we'll delve into the game later, but at the end of the first group stages, they were comparing, you know, CAF with the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation.
Yeah.
Now, and they were talking about the points, how few points the
Asian teams gathered.
Yes. But now we are a laughing stock. If we're just going 1-1-1, how in God's green earth? You know, I was actually going to bed at the 86th minute yesterday because I needed to wake up early today. Lo and behold, Mr. Lukaku stopped me in my tracks.
So you sat down waiting for the game to end 2-1 after Lukaku scored, yeah?
In less than 4 minutes, I even thought it was a joke. I even tweeted, I said, what's this? I ended up going to bed during extra time because I couldn't take it anymore. So where do we start? With Lukaku, with Congo, with Kane, with Harry Kane?
I want to start with something that will be very generic. There is need for an improvement in game management from so many of these African coaches. I think they are failing on that critical tenet of a game. What to do when you're leading, or even what to do when you're down, so that you do not concede. So for me, it's down to game management. Sometimes the things that have been said about African football or Africans may sound racist, and we are very quick to play victim in many of the cases, but in actual sense, it's not. Sometimes there's enough evidence to suggest that it's not actually racist. How on earth do Senegal account for being the better team for long periods, go 2-0 up, and then somehow find a way to lose 3-2? Because I'd probably understand if these players were playing in an African league and setting, and would be easy for me to say, okay, maybe they haven't mastered the game at the highest level. But these guys play in the top sides in the world, yeah? Or have played in the top sides. When you play in the Premier League, when you play in the Spanish La Liga, let's say with Pape Gueye, or Idrissa Gana Gueye, or Ismaila Sarr, and some of them even have played at higher clubs. You look at Ibrahim Ambaye, for example, who plays at PSG. But there are those even who have played at bigger clubs. It's a player like Sadio Mane. He's played at Liverpool in their most successful spell of the past 30, 40 years. So for me, it's down to game management. And some of it you can blame the coaching. The other you can blame the players themselves on how they manage themselves on the field of play. And that remains a profound challenge for all these teams. I stated in the previous show, when we were discussing the comments made by Bastian Schweinsteiger, I said I've actually found the comments made by the former French right back and Bordeaux coach Willy Sagnol even more radical, yeah, but also partly truthful, because we've all seen these things happen and again and again. When Willy Sagnol mentions that African players are very good with the physical attributes and sometimes the attitude towards the game is very good, but the interpretation is not very good. And sometimes for me, I'm always thinking it's about the system in which we are raised. And many of us think sport will exist outside of the confines of our lives. I've always argued it doesn't. Sport does not exist in a vacuum. All the impurities of our societies are going to be seen in sport, because sport gives us a platform to show all those impurities. And even in all the other things we do, our levels of concentration, our levels of attention to detail, in most of the other things of life, I don't want even just to discuss football, many times are found lacking. Sometimes when I'm angry about things that happen on a pitch, then you find a builder who could not place pavers for which he was assigned and paid. Then you find a road with a pothole the night after the road was worked on. And these roads are largely done by us. Okay, you could say now there is a lot of Chinese companies doing them, but hiring Ugandans to do. And then there is an inspector, there is a commissioner, there is a permanent secretary. Our attention to detail sometimes, in all other aspects of life, come back to show in sport. That's why some of these comments, I personally do not find racist. I find us short, and I've always thought and argued that the more we expose our players to the game at the top level, there is going to be an improvement across the board. But most of these African teams that were knocked out, for me, it's game management. We discussed South Africa the other day. They conceded a very, very late goal to exit the tournament to Canada. Then you've mentioned DRC. They took the lead, pegged back, and eventually beaten by a masterclass from Hurricane. Then Senegal, perhaps the most hurtful for many Africans, led by 2-0 against a fading Belgian side that has been in decline for some time. Then somehow found a way to lose 3-2, which is the fourth African side that has been knocked out, because there's been...
Morocco has gone through.
Morocco went through, yes. Morocco is the
and
other.
I think we're left with 4. Egypt, Cape Verde, Algeria, and Ghana.
So for those that have exceeded, largely it's game management. That's why Morocco have set the bar
very high.
Very high. They've been very distinct.
But are we just poor? Because for me, one of the reasons why I'm feeling
No,
bad,
we are not very poor.
the Asians are going to say, well, they went in, but none of them have. It's only Morocco that, I don't know, okay, Ghana, Colombia, maybe they have
Australia
a chance.
these days is Asian. You know, they moved from Oceania to AFC.
Yeah, okay. But if you saw that there was this calculation of goals per game, and Asia had done very poorly in the first round.
Yeah.
But now, I think Papa Gueye has said he's retiring. Okay, not retiring. Until the technical bench and the coach change, he is taking a break.
He's overstating his importance. He's overstating his importance. Yes, he's a good player. He scored a goal that won the AFCON that was eventually overturned in the boardroom. And he's almost destined to have a very good career because he's had a very good season at Villarreal. But he's overstating his importance to the team or to the cause. They do not win and lose because of just him. They win and lose because of a collective. He has to be more of a team player than is stated after that loss.
Okay, then. Let's talk about Brazil and Japan. And Brazil in the next group will be meeting, who are they meeting? Norway.
Norway,
yeah. I also liked Norway. Well, Norway against Ivory Coast, I believe. Yeah, let's talk about Brazil
Let's
and
start
Japan.
with Brazil. Escape, but also we've used the word adaptability a lot because I borrowed that from Carlo Ancelotti. He stated it very many times at every press conference that the Brazilian team has to be adaptable to situations. And they showed in that game. They were not very good to come from a goal down because Japan scored first and had a chance to make it 2-0. When they didn't, Brazil had the opportunity, and when it came, eventually Casemiro and Gabriel Martinelli, who came off a bench, got the goals. Martinelli involved in both goals. You want that kind of player on the bench. You want some kind of trump card or wild card, a player you can call on at any time and say, carry the cross on my behalf. And Brazil did. So you could call it an escape that eventually has Brazil staying in the tournament. The 5-time world champions have not won the World Cup for the last 24 years. So, and many of us felt they have an opportunity now because the margin between the best teams and Brazil have become much thinner. I could almost argue only France is head and shoulders above the rest. So they book a ticket against Norway, a team they last played in the World Cup back in 1998, the last time that Norway qualified. But I was also seeing they have a very atrocious record against Norway. They played them in 4 games and Brazil are yet to win. Even that game in 98, Norway beat Brazil by 2-1. And that game is the reason why Morocco were knocked out in the group stages of that World Cup played in France. And we all know Norway have the tools, especially
well, many tools,
one tool.
But, yeah.
You could call it one because of Erling Haaland. We saw one of the things I've stated repeatedly about Erling Haaland and being a special player, that he will not do much on the pitch, but once the ball comes to him, you're almost certain that he's going to score. I think in that game against Ivory Coast, where the Norwegians won 2-1, he had 5 or 8 touches on the ball. And even the one he scored, the tap-in was very shabby. He did not hit the ball as well as he would have liked, and he actually kept chasing the ball. He only realized that was actually going to or had crossed the line. Then he stopped running. And I'd stated that I thought the Ivorians, for everything that they will do, they need to watch out for Erling Haaland as a team on his own, and they paid the price for it. Norway have been one of the fairy tale stories of the World Cup because I've stated repeatedly that they are enjoying their moment. The players are, the fans are, even those who stayed back in Oslo are enjoying the run that Norway are having at this World Cup. So they'll go into the game, I think, against Brazil, hoping to just enjoy it some more. Yeah, and Brazil have not been convincing either.
Yeah, no.
Yes, they have those 3-0 drubbings of Haiti and Scotland, but it's a case of how bad the opposition was than how good Brazil were. The moment Brazil were challenged by Japan, we saw that they still layers to go in that team for them to get much better and get to a point where everyone fears what the Brazilians are able to do. So should be an interesting game in the round of 16. And we all know that Norway have goals in them. If they do score, then Brazil have a proper fight on their hands in that game later this week.
Okay. Did you feel for the Dutch getting out at this stage and the manner in which they got out, losing those penalties?
I would feel if I was a fan.
Hakimi missed as well.
Yes. but you'd feel for them because they took a lead.
And your supercomputer.
Yeah, some of these things, and this is one of the things I always state that conspiracy theorists have to put in a lot more effort, because most of the conspiracies they sell us are very, very poor. I would believe the ones involving the vaccines, but the ones around sports, I think you need to come with a lot more knowledge. So I remember that story of the Dutch will win the World Cup, and I was like, They could win the World Cup, but not for the reasons that they were giving, because it was all conspiracy. I would find good reasons to make a case for the Dutch to win the World Cup on this show. The directness of Brobbey, this team not having just one central figure, and the team ethic. Those things I could make a case. I think I could be good with that. I do not have to buy the other things. When you have knowledge about something, allow that knowledge to feed whatever argument you're going to make, not just conclusions because you chose to find an extra reason why one team will win and not the other. But the one thing maybe they will feel angry about is that they led for very long in that game and then conceded a very late equalizer to the Moroccans. And then thereafter, normally when you score that late, all the momentum, there is a wind behind you to go and win the game, regardless of whether through a shootout or through extra time. Even with a terrible shootout between the two sides, because both decided not to score, but until one had to cross the line. And eventually, the Moroccans are living up to that promise as the best African side. They are living up to that ranking. I'm one of those who has said repeated that I do not buy into FIFA rankings, but Brazil are 6th, Morocco are 7th, Netherlands are 8th. And if the Moroccans are through, that emphasizes that they're actually better in that sense. And eventually, in the penalty shootout, you could say it's a lottery, but I've always argued that I do not buy the lottery narrative for one simple reason. I think penalties are too important to be left to chance. And we are going to do that when we mention Germany.
Yes.
Because I'm one of those who does not think penalties are just a mere lottery. If people are going to practice and there's technique to them and there is preparation, if you want to call them lottery, then convince me that you wake up tomorrow and walk in and just take one.
Ivan Toney, and I've mentioned this before, I don't know here, or he had a penalty taking coach from America. He practiced his technique of taking a penalty without looking at the ball. Okay.
Because when you look at the ball, your eyes give away something to the goalkeeper because it's a game of psyche.
It was unbelievable. I think now he's in Europe. in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, but he has a coach, an American, just for that technique. So it's not chance. So I'm agreeing with you, basically. But let's talk about Germany. Were they unfortunate? Is the fairy tale for Paraguay?
No, Germany have not been good for some time. I wish sometimes when we do this show, you guys find enough data and time to go back to the first things we stated when we were doing our World Cup preview. Because I was rewatching what I said about Germany after they were knocked out. And I could almost just copy and paste that to this show. Because one of the things I could mention repeatedly is that they are short on quality. There are players who have potential. Musiala, Florian Wirtz, there is potential in there. But they've not yet reached productivity that convinces you that the moment they walk out, they are going to be able to get a result. Let me give you a basic. The goal they concede to Esiso, the former Brighton forward. I think these days plays this football in North America or in Latin America, but plays on this side of the world. Yeah. That cross comes in. Both Jonathan Tah and Antonio Rudiger are much taller than Esiso, but he gets onto the ball and heads it. reminds me of when Germany knocked us out, and us I mean Argentina. Whenever you hear me, us and the World Cup, you know Argentina.
It's not Uganda.
Yeah, it's not Uganda. When I'm talking World Cup, I'll talk Uganda in a different way. When they knocked Argentina out of the World Cup back in 2006, Argentina repeatedly crossed the ball against the length of Christoph Metzelder and Per Mertesacker, and never got one single chance through Crespo and Julio Cruz. And Argentina were knocked out. And who I thought in that moment he should have picked Lionel Messi off the bench and thrown him in, and he refused, and were knocked out. And I did not even have the knowledge and analysis I have now. Now, I could argue that I know a lot more about sport than I did back then. But I knew that if Messi came on, the game would have been different. So the game was tied, and then we went to a penalty shootout, which Argentina lost. Roberto Ayala missed a penalty that day. So you've got to do the basics right.
Yeah.
And one of the things we know about, there is no team we know about doing the basics right like Germany. In that game, they did not do the basics right. You consider a goal the way they did against Isiso. Then, eventually, you got to give also Paraguay a lot of credit, the manner in which they defended. That Germany did not have so many attempts at their goal. Then, they go into a penalty shootout. Yeah? In our lifetime, we haven't seen Germany lose so many penalty shootouts. Actually, there is, for a very long period of time from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the Germans never lost a penalty shootout. These days they do. The game has changed and people have started to treat this with a lot more importance. So, I'll sit here the same way I stated when Arsenal lost to PSG and allowed Gabriel take their fifth penalty. I'll not understand how Jonathan Tah takes that last penalty. Yeah, and if you watch those pictures, there's a very funny moment. When the Paraguayans miss a penalty, should have been their fifth or fourth, right before Jonathan Tah takes his, he was celebrating the most. And in my mind, I'm thinking the amount of concentration you need for that penalty, you've almost shut out the entire world in that moment and just waiting to walk that lengthy 50 meters to take your kick. Then he celebrates and he comes out and balloons is over. I repeat, you can all say penalties are a lottery. That's your way of thinking. I am more is thinking penalties are too important to be left to chance. There is hours of practice. There is psych. There is players training. I've seen Gareth Southgate. You mentioned Ivan Toney. I've seen Gareth Southgate during that spell when I think England deserved to win a trophy, either the Euros or the World Cup. When they played very well, got to a final. In the Euros, got to a semi-final in the World Cup. Gareth Southgate went about changing England's history in the shootout, and they went and worked on it. And during his time in charge, they were involved in 4 penalty shootouts and won 3. Before that, England, I think, had lost 5 of their previous 7 penalty shootout games. So, for me, penalties are too important to be left to chance. You cannot be letting Jonathan Tah take your most important penalty in a very long time.
Okay. Isma, who is going to stop Olise, Dembele, and Mbappe? Because this looks like France's cup to lose.
Yeah. In some phases when they are playing, when they are flying the way they can, looks like they are cup to lose. 13 goals in 4 games. Irresistible.
And they play so well.
Yeah, it's amazing what they've been able to put together currently. They kind of run their own. Makes it very hard to watch if you do not support them, but also very enchanting if you love football. They are in the zone. It's very difficult to even point out who is going to stop them.
So we should just skip to semi-finals because they're going to beat Paraguay.
Maybe not. The last time they played Paraguay in the 1998 World Cup, it was a very, very close game. Did France win that 1-0? I normally do not want to pull out my phone during the show, but I want to pull out for that because I remember it was a very, very close game because France labored in that World Cup until they got to the final. And in that final, which they beat Brazil by 3-0, they were irresistible. Or they just choked out Brazil, and also were helped by the health of who is that, Ronaldo, in the end. Yeah, but as I find that, how do you stop them? I think you've got to force them to do the difficult things. You've got to force them to play the ball in positions where they are not very, very comfortable. One of those has got to be to force Mike Olise out of his comfort zone, because when he's dropping and playing that pass that releases Kylian Mbappe or releases Bradley Barcola for that goal that Barcola scored, and Olise now has not scored, but he has 4 assists. But they've been able to vary their game. They get Dembele to bag a hat-trick. They get Mbappe to get all the numbers that he would love. Even if he stated that he doesn't care about the numbers, all he wants is France to win the World Cup. And they have a very, very good chance of doing so. I think you've got to force first Olise out of his comfort zone, where he's carrying the ball and playing that pass without pressure on him. That is the one area maybe. And maybe you go to force Dembele off the ball. That game that I was telling you in 1998 against Paraguay, France won it by 1-0. The goal was scored by Laurent Blanc in extra time. 114 minutes when that ball crossed the line. In the end. And Paraguay, one of the best defensive sides at this World Cup. They never give away too many chances. But I was just emphasizing that maybe they won't sweep aside Paraguay because of that history. And from what we saw, what Paraguay were able to execute against Germany. But even they will know this is an upgrade. Yeah, this is moving like from 2G to 5G, yeah, in terms of network. Or on these power lines from domestic power to high voltage. Paraguay will know this is high voltage in comparison to Germany in terms of what they are supposed to execute on the day.
Wow. Well, speaking of lapses in Paraguayan defense, you said they had a good defense. Yeah. A team that doesn't have a very good defense but have found themselves here is Algeria. They do have something in the bag in form of their coach, Vladimir Petkovic or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he once coached Switzerland, so he has a bit of some intimate knowledge about the Swiss squad. Would he be able to use that? Do you think Algeria will be able to get something from Switzerland, move to the group of 16?
They have an opportunity, a bit like buying a lottery ticket. Now the knockout football, like we've seen, is totally different from the group stage football that we've watched in the earlier rounds of the World Cup. One of the things that I've always known about the Swiss is that they are never too flamboyant, but they are able to get the job done. Just a bit like the Rolex watch, yeah, which is their biggest export. When you think about Switzerland, you think about watches. And they routinely get to the round of 16, but they never really go past that. So the Swiss will be favorites. What the Algerians can do, for me, first of all, this starts with how well they defend. Yeah, you've got to cut out a lot of the things that the Swiss will do in those forward areas because they have a bit of pace, and then you've got to keep the ball away from their wide men. If they stretch your backline, then you're in deep trouble. And we all know how Algeria paid for that in that game against Argentina at the start of the World Cup. But now maybe it's long forgotten. And now that they are into this stage of the World Cup, they should be much better resourced than they were earlier in the World Cup. And then maybe when you get your chances, you've got to take them. Maybe also increase the amount of minutes that they give Riyad Mahrez, because we've noticed even at his age, he has a lot more quality in the final third than the rest of the Algerian players. So you've got to get the ball to him when he gets minutes on the pitch.
I was listening to Cape Verde early this morning. Someone from the team, they were asking them, are you going to mark Messi? Say, no, we're not going to. But what chance do they have? Grand mistake.
That is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. If I use French, that's absolute BS. I will insist you cannot go in a game with a player of the quality and the number and the history and the talent and the execution of Messi and then say you're going to play against Argentina. You must find a plan for Messi. I hope he's just saying it for the camera,
maybe
privately. But also, the famous Ghanaian witch doctor says Cape Verde will knock out Argentina.
Okay.
The one who locked Hurricane in the group stages, yeah? He says Cape Verde will knock out Argentina.
Okay.
Someone actually told me that he had also predicted Netherlands or Germany to go through the same. Which doctor? No. But they've got to have a plan for Messi. Without it, they would rather stay in their hotel rooms.
Okay. Should the Australians have a plan for the Egyptian king?
That's if he walks out and plays the game. We mentioned earlier in the week that he's been carrying an injury. Hopefully he's fit for the game. And if he's on the pitch, it's a totally different Egyptian side. They've got to be much better than they would need to if he wasn't playing.
He wasn't playing, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, which doctor say anything about Colombia, Ghana? It's coming up.
I haven't seen that yet. I hope we see it after the show. But is edging closer to mob action.
Oh.
Yeah, because if he goes on with this rhetoric and it doesn't work, he's not far away from mob action. But anyway, my feelings about Colombia and Ghana is that advantage Colombia at kickoff. They've been one of the better sides flying under the radar from the group stages, exemplified by that performance against Portugal, the goalless draw in the group stages, where Colombia were by far the better side and should have won the game. Actually also scored a goal through Davinson Sanchez that was eventually cancelled because he was in an offside position. So one of the things that for me Ghana have got to do is to get very physical, because the Colombians are going to bring their physical game at them. So you've got to counter that by playing in a similar way, because you're not going to be able to manage the ball and beat the Colombians at that. Other teams maybe could. Spain will, maybe Argentina will, maybe Germany could. There are not many others that will. So you've got to counter that physicality of the Colombians and also prevent the crosses, because they have a veteran in James Rodriguez. For all the minutes that he gets, he's able to come and pick pockets and play that cross. So you've got to cut out those crosses from the wide areas if you're Ghana. And they haven't created much. Their captain and centre forward Jordan Ayew hasn't scored a goal at this World Cup yet. So maybe Semenyo and Thomas Partey in that midfield have to take on a bit more responsibility. Semenyo first has to take on a little more responsibility, and Partey has to enable Ghana control the game in phases when they can, because they are playing against an opponent who is superior to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk quickly about some tournament knockout pedigree in the game Portugal against Croatia that features aging legends.
Croatia, every time everyone has discussed them, everyone discusses how old their superstars are. And they are the oldest team at the World Cup in terms of average age. That age, even if it was 30, when you add Luka Modric, who is 40, goes from 30 to 35. If the mean or the average goes from 30 to 35 because of just one player. And this isn't the only old one. There's also Mateo Kovacic on that roster. The one thing that I think Portugal can do to make it very difficult for Croatia is to play the game at a very high tempo. But even they have their own worry in a 40-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. But I would wonder they play the game at a very high tempo, where you get Rafael Leao, Francisco Conceição, and then maybe Pedro Neto, two of the three, to run at that Croatian midfield and backline. In the end, that's where your chances are going to come from. And Portugal will think they need to improve on their performance from the group stages. That perhaps starts from their midfield pair from PSG. Vitinha and João Neves have to influence games more than they have. Then Bruno Fernandes from here has to take more responsibility. From here on, if they're going to make it, they are going to have a deep run in the World Cup.
Okay, let's look forward to the round of 16. The hosts, Canada, are up against Morocco and Mexico. Can they stop the Kane machine?
With the kind of noise that will be at that Estadio Azteca for the round of 16 game, I think it's a building block upon which Mexico will use. They were very good in their game against Ecuador, which they won by 2 goals to 0, but it's not the same kind of level. Ecuador do not have Harry Kane. Harry Kane as an apologist in Ismail, and I've been a fanatic for very long. But if you ever doubted the quality and what Harry Kane brings, I thought that game against DRC was testament. DRC did not do too much wrong in the game. When they needed the post to save them, they had it. When they their goalkeeper Mpasi to make a save, he did. But in the end, when you have the quality that is Harry Kane, you're going to have a chance in the game. And that second goal, that belter, that gets England into the round of 16 was a beauty, something to behold for a very long time. Now they go into a game at the Azteca, where England do have very bad memories. This is the stadium where they were knocked out by Maradona in the quarterfinals in 1986. That hand of God, yeah? But also the same game had Maradona go past 7 England players to score. It's the same place that they are going. There's been a conversation about the altitude because Mexico City is much higher than where England have been playing. So they need to adapt very, very fast. Thomas Tuchel stated they need to adapt to that altitude in the game. And then, like I stated earlier, the fans. It's going to be a crazy place. There's going to be a cacophony of noise that is going to be backing the Mexicans. And England have to lock out that noise. But most of these players play for Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. When you come to think of it, Man City, Arsenal, they play at so many hostile grounds. So it shouldn't be an issue. Maybe the altitude is going to be the biggest issue that they are going to encounter. But this is a proper round of 16, a proper knockout game for England. The other that you mentioned is
Canada
against Morocco. Morocco have not even reached their target yet. They set for themselves by getting to the semi-finals of the previous World Cup. So there's still some layers to go. Like England, they've got to lock out the noise, yeah? They've got to lock out the noise of the fans if they're going to be able to get the result they so desire. But Morocco, I think, are proven over the recent past that they have it in them to fight all kinds of adversity. Even if now Canada now gathered momentum. We mentioned in the previous show that Alphonso Davies is now playing. He had missed the entire group stage as their best player. He's now back in the side. So he offers a lot of attacking intent from the left side of the pitch. And Morocco have to counter that. But Morocco are in a very, very good place. I think they'll go there believing that they can actually get the result over the Canadians.
Okay. Remember, all these games can be seen live on Supersport with DSTV. If you don't have a decoder, do get yourselves a decoder for only 15,000 shillings. Something else that you can also watch on DSTV is Wimbledon. And we have seen 44-year-old Serena leave. She didn't even speak to the press.
Yeah.
But I was telling my sisters, my sisters and I are crazy about tennis. And I was like, Isma was saying that in order to get them just,
move them around, hit the ball in the corners. Yeah. Didn't you notice that? I was actually, this week, there has been...
I expected a bit more.
There has been electric atmospheres in sports venues. I have not seen an atmosphere, I have not experienced an atmosphere this week as electric as Wimbledon. Wow. The fans were locked in for that Serena Williams game like she had a chance of winning Wimbledon. The noise when she took that second set, because she was playing, what's the girl's name? Maya Joint. Yeah. When she fell down the first set, yes, hushed silence. Then when she took that second set in a tie break, the noise inside SW19 could have taken down the roof of the All England club, because it was played with a retracted roof. It was amazing to see how much people were locked into supporting Serena, even if many of us believe genuinely that her best years are behind her. And she gave them something to cheer with that second set victory. And then eventually she lost in the third, 6-3. And in that game she suffered an injury. And there's been doubt about her working out for the doubles later this week with her sister Venus, because I think her thigh has an issue. But I was pleased to see her. Comebacks are never very good. I'm anti-comebacks. There's only one comeback that went well for some time, and then eventually also had a very bad ending. Zinedine Zidane, when he decided to come out of retirement and play a portion of the qualifiers for the 2006 World Cup, then eventually took France to the final, where he eventually ended up headbutting Marco Materazzi and got sent off. That's the closest a comeback has gone to having a fairy tale ending. Serena, good to see her back, but not much of what she did that I had not predicted. I was shocked she won a set. That emphasizes that there's tennis in her blood, nothing more.
Okay, speaking of comebacks, let's talk about your friend Hussein Mbalangu. Yes, he has been unveiled at UPDF.
Yes, he has a coaching job. Actually, the CEO of UPDF is a friend to Brandon. He owes us certain things, the UPDF CEO, through Brandon. But Brandon is not very good mukubanja. So we need to bring a debt collector in the shape of Denzel Washington, if you watch the movie, who will be more ruthless to ensure that the job is done. Yes, Mbalangu now has a job at UPDF FC. The one thing that you're guaranteed with Mbalangu is utmost discipline and fight. His teams will fight. You cannot explain his structure, how the team is either very good defensively or what, but his teams fight, and he demands utmost discipline. Part of it comes from his faith as a Muslim, because he's very disciplined in observing the 5 daily prayers and ensuring that he toes the line of the Quran, and he transfers that part of it into his coaching, and he's going to demand that from his players. Hopefully UPDF now have the resources that are not going to be locked in a relegation fight, because that has been the song of their past few years. They're either in the big league fighting to go up, or they're in the Uganda Premier League fighting to stay up. That's a narrative that Hussein Mbalangu has got to change, and part of it is beyond him. There's got to be resources to acquire and retain players, and also reward them throughout the season.
Let's talk about Vipers. Who is this gentleman?
Dennis Lavan. If you listen to Luganda radio like I do, his name is going to be pronounced as Lavagne. Yeah? Or the closest others say will so Lavane. I was asking someone and they told me the name is Lavan, Dennis Lavan. The new coach at the unveil this week, replacing their former coach who left the club at the end of last season despite winning the league, Ivan Jakimina, the Belgian. So this guy that they've signed is French. He's coached in Cameroon before with Cotton Sport, won 4 league titles, and the biggest tie for him is that he took Cotton Sport to the final of the 2008 CAF Champions League, which they did not win. But the club president at Vipers or Petron, Lawrence Mulinda, thinks this is the guy who is going to get Vipers into the group stage of the Champions League, because that's where they want to go. They've won the league, they've won the Uganda Cup, and it's no longer the motivation. They want to go to the next level, which is get the group stage of the Champions League and perhaps start doing that regularly. So Dennis Lavan is the man charged with delivering that. Wait to see how his team set up, what's the plan with how he plays, and then we can make judgment on him. The difference though is that this one, unlike many of the previous coaches, was not unveiled at a press conference. It was unveiled through a press statement released to their website. In the past, it would always be very good to interact with Lawrence Mulindwa when he's unveiling a coach. Then you ask him, "Nti onaze achimanyi nti ogoba." Yeah. Then he gave a very famous response. Says, "Kozi ngalike mandwa." Yeah. So that is the Lawrence Mulindwa as we know him. So hopefully he's going to meet the club's targets, and if he does, then he's going to be in the job very long. If he doesn't, he'll be gone like all those other foreign coaches that Mulindwa has had over the many years.
This is very clear, the deliverables. And what about the latest player they have signed?
They've unveiled Joel Serunjoji from KCCA. Serunjoji has played for KCCA for the past 3 years, but failed to reach an agreement on a contract extension with the club. So he leaves as a free agent and joins Vipers. Another steal, I think, for Vipers to take a player from a team that would be a direct rival or second in the league, if you don't think they're rivals anymore, but right on their cocktails in terms of the title race in the recent past. So Serunjoji, a defensive midfielder, walks into that team and is going to be very helpful. Remember, they've lost Tadeo Luanga, who is moved to AFC Leopards, so they needed someone in that area. Has done very well in his 3 years at KCCA, and also was one of the stellar performers during the African Nations Championship that Uganda hosted last year. That actually even forced me to make an argument for him to be selected for the AFCON in Morocco, but he wasn't. Eventually, Paul Pot did not think that was ready. So Joel Serunjoji gets a shot at Champions League football. KCC do not have that currently in Lugogo. He'll understand the pressure. He knows Lawrence Mulindwa has very lofty standards and expectations when he signs players. And now the agenda is very clear. They've got to get into the group stages of the Champions League. If they do not, then Serunjoji would have failed or would have not done very well at the club. In the end, it's business. It's
business. Is his departure a headache for Brian Senyondo?
It should be, but for now, Senyondo should be sharing lunch with us because he's been given the job permanently. Remember when he first came in last season?
Call me, you have my number.
Yeah. When he was given the job, they were working as co-coaches with Jackson Magera, and they were supposed to be at the same level. That experiment, in the admission of just appointing Senyondo as the head coach
and leaving,
and Magera staying out in the cold, is confirmation that the experiment was not working, having the co-coaches. So Brian Senyondo takes the job as the head coach, so the buck stops with him in terms of the players. He's tried to cushion that very fast by acquiring Elvis Ngonde from Villa. Ngonde started the season very well for Villa, but then faded and ended up on the bench largely for the 17-time league champions. So he gets a chance to rebuild his career in yellow under Senyondo, who is also trying to earn his stripes. Yes, he won a Uganda Cup title with Kitara and did well when he coached in Masaka, but still he has layers to go in terms of growth as a coach. So you say they'll miss Serunjoji? Yes, they will. But Senyondo has bigger fish to fry. I think he has enough in his house to get through than worry about a player who has left the club.
Okay, let's talk about Allan Okello. We had kind of mentioned that by the time we did the next show, they might have been crowned
league champions.
Yeah,
they confirmed that this week because Yanga, Allan Okello's side, won the league for a 5th successive season. And he hasn't been a bystander or a passenger in that run. He scored 14 goals. I've seen some obscene numbers that claim he had 11 assists, but the numbers I had prior were six assists. So maybe I could be wrong, or some people are right and could be wrong. But in the end, he's won 2 league titles in one season because he won one at Vipers. He left in mid-season, and his medal was delivered by his friend and former teammate Karim Watambala.
Yeah.
Now he's won a league title in Tanzania.
Tanzania.
His stock has gone up. 14 goals in just 23 games that he's played for them this season is a very, very good return. And not just for me, the goals. I think his influence and the way he's embraced Yanga and the way the Yanga fans have embraced him. I do not understand much of the Swahili, but I'm also able to catch some videos on TikTok and some social media platforms, especially X, where you see utasemaji Allan Okello, utawati Allan Okello, yeah, and my Swahili died the day East Africa TV went off air, yeah, because at least with EA TV I was able to watch and understand some Nawomba Wimbo, which I want to understand. I wanted to play me a song, yeah, there was some Swahili on EA TV, and the days when we listened to the very young Professor J and Juma Nature with that song Zali Lamentali, yeah, if you remember it from way back. So my Swahili has really thinned over the years. Maybe Allan Okello will bring it back now that I watch a lot of fans commenting about his performances, and most of it is well earned. Big congratulations. He has now to take it to the next level. Yanga have been to continental semi-finals, and their rivals Simba, I think, have also played the CAF Confederations Cup final. The challenge that Allan Okello and Yanga face now, 5 league titles, that means they've won 4 before you came, so it's nothing. You've not done anything yet. But they want to go into the continent and be able to compete with RS Berkane, with Al Ahly, with Sundowns, with Wydad Casablanca, with Fair FR Rabat, and that's the kind of level they're expecting to be performing. So you almost want to forget, celebrate, but forget it very fast, and then do not rest on your laurels, because there's bigger fish to fry. There's a bigger horizon to chase for him.
Okay. The Silverbacks are in Angola for a World Cup qualifier. What are their chances?
The chances not very good. This is the second window of the World Cup qualifiers. They played in the first window and did not win a game. They are in a group that has Angola, the hosts, Mali and Egypt. They lost all 3 games during the first qualification window in North Africa. Now this is the second one. I'm not very, very confident. Besides being very patriotic and wishing Uganda very well, I do not have an inside lane or the knowledge to suggest that they'll do very well in Angola. If they win a game, hats off to them. Their first game is on Thursday at 9 p.m. Against the hosts.
Which is today, a few hours from now.
Yeah, at 9 p.m. Then they'll play Mali. Then they'll play Egypt by the time the weekend is done. I have nothing to suggest they are going to do very well. But Monday, the coach has been around the team for a very long time, so he will know how to harness these players. You have a lot of players who have come from the league here. Jonathan Komagum, you have Fayed Bale, Titus Luwal, Joel Kaira, and a few others. Then you've brought in Robinson Odocho Pong, the captain. And I watched a video of his supporting Pirates. Maybe that's the reason why. But I've seen Robinson Odocho Pong and Dengeo, yeah, some of the superstars they brought in from outside of Uganda. They've got to carry a lot of the load if the team is going to, for me, even just compete. To even say they have to win a game may not be the right mentality. My mind is that they've got to just win a game here. Yeah, because I do not think they'll go, I don't think they'll qualify for the World Cup. That World Cup should be in Qatar. Africa has 5 or 7 slots, but I don't think they'll make that cut. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Isma. I don't think you have an invitation to Madison Square Garden. So will you be in Bugweri, since unfortunately you have
unemployed.
A bit of time.
A bit of time. On Saturday evening, by the way, the President Museveni, will be speaking on TV at 8 p.m. I will have spent the entire
But now
day.
our radio KFM is off, so, and our TV
And
is off.
TV is off. Yeah, the national broadcaster UBC has no issues with showing.
Hi, Maurice.
Yeah, of showing the address. I think I'll be watching that. Hopefully, hopefully then or even before that, NMG is open.
I wish
We need to get back to earning our daily bread, and the people making those decisions should be mightily aware that livelihoods are at stake.
I also hope there is a strong statement about Ebola. You know, as you were talking about the silverbacks in Angola, I was remembering this tournament that was supposed to be in Uganda but was taken to Egypt.
Yeah.
Will we
For
be
the
able
under
to get
18s?
the money to transport the team?
No, actually,
or-
Uganda is supposed to host the FIBA under 18 Afro basket qualifiers in the basketball. So it was moved from Uganda to Egypt because of Ebola.
Yeah.
And thereafter, FIBA, the Federation for Basketball, communicated that the team will not travel to Egypt because they do not have the resources.
Yeah.
They are hoping that when they host, the cost will be much.
But why would they take it so far? Why not Rwanda next door or Kenya?
Do Rwanda want it? Would they want it? That's also an issue.
But it's really unfair. So I do hope the president also talks about Ebola and how it has.
Have you seen the stories about Marburg? There's a
in
new
Uganda?
one. I think somewhere in Congo at the border, but you know everything that happens in Congo happens here, except the football. We don't go to the World Cup. Yeah?
I saw something as we conclude. Desabre has not been in Congo. Is that possible?
Yeah, he doesn't live there.
I know he doesn't live there. So where do they train? He has not been, like, since he took over.
I think he travels there when they've had games.
Let me Google
For
that.
example, when they played Senegal, no, he goes there for the games, but he doesn't live there. It's a case similar to Avram Grant when he was coaching Ghana and coaching Zambia. He stayed in London, but would show up for the games when they are training camp. Now that's the same arrangement. And I'm very, very happy for how the Sabri has performed, yeah, at the World Cup. For DRC, I think he's going to get a job for more money. And I'm one person who wishes everyone earns more money, provided they are not stealing it. He left Awaka $25,000 job, went to a $90,000 job at Pyramids, left Pyramids, went to Wydad Casablanca for a $110,000 job, then left Wydad and went to Nantes. Nantes is in the French League too, for a job that earned him over $200,000 every month. That's all dollars. Then after he lost his job at Nantes, he was sketching. Then he came back to Africa and got a job that gives him about $50,000 for DRC. Inevitably, without DRC has performed at this World Cup, he's going to get a job for more money. Whether he takes it, whether he feels he still has something to achieve with DRC, whether he feels DRC can pay him more so that he stays. Yeah, I'm always very happy when people are getting more money that is not stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm just reading here that he has announced the death of his dad.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so we do commiserate with Desabre and his family. So many people have lost. I saw Deschamps had lost
His mom.
someone,
He
and
lost his mom and
then-
flew back to France and
and then
came back.
And then even the gentleman who scored against the Dutch guy lost an unborn child. I think the wife had a miscarriage or girlfriend. He scored against Morocco. I can't remember his name, but yeah, so he plays in England. Yeah, but anyway, that's all we had for you on this week of a Second Take with IDK. Remember to get a decoder, watch all the remaining games as we conclude the round of 32 and prepare for the round of 16, the FIFA World Cup 2026 and all the drama, as well as Wimbledon and everything else that is happening. I don't know if there's any Formula One, but we will see you next time. Take care of yourselves.
Are you tired of the daily hustle and bustle? the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Nabingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College Nabingo Road. GMS Nabingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.